What's going on, everybody? It's Q Jackson, host of BLK Talk. Look, I was over here preparing for another amazing episode, but look, I need you guys to go ahead and hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell so that you guys don't miss any of our amazing conversations. Have a new episode coming to you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's going on, everybody? It's Q Jackson, host of BLK Talk. I'm back, sorry, with another amazing episode and a very special guest. Let's see, Black, trans, tech. These are a few words that describe this amazing individual who is here with us today. Guys, I would love for you to welcome E.C Pizarro the third, 1, 2, 3, to BLK Talk. Thank you for joining us today. How are you?
Thank you, Q, for having me. I'm doing great.
So how's everything? We finally were able to go ahead and mesh these schedules. You have been busy, my brother, doing a lot of amazing things.
Yeah, increased demand. I mean, tech and diversity, there's a lot of intersections there. And there's not a lot of organizations doing what we're doing and look the way we look. So, I'm glad that we could talk because I center Black folks and everything. Everything I do is very pro-Black. So I'm glad that we could finally get some time to sit down and talk.
Absolutely. So first, let's start. For people who may be unfamiliar with you, tell the people a little bit about yourself and your background.
Sure. I'm a behind-the-scenes content pro, a brand designer, web designer, all-around tech guru, as well as the executive director of Trans Tech Social Enterprises. Everything that I do in my work centers the most marginalized. I feel like when you center the most marginalized in a community, it is accessible and equitable for all. I'm also the founder of marshallsweb.com, which is a directory that is launching next summer, June 2024, that centers BIPOC folks, trans and queer folks. A lot of times, those in the margins are looking for resources and they find out those resources aren't really for them, they're for other groups of people. So to have that directory there so that we know as a community what spaces are for us and are safe for us to activate with.
So for you to be in a space that you don't hear a lot of, a lot of Black people are getting into it, but to highlight the Black and the trans. When did you feel like, okay, this is something that I love. I love tech. I am a part of, the Black community, the trans community. I think it's time for me to be that person and take the steps forward to merge all of the three. When did you come up with that? When did you figure that out?
So I started working on Marshall's Web during the pandemic. And that was just from mentoring and talking to different people and realizing I transitioned over 11 years ago in Southeast Virginia, Hampton Roads area. And I'm talking to people that are transitioning 6 months ago. And they're having the same issues that I was having. So I'm like, wait a minute. That shouldn't be a thing. So that's where Marshall's Web came from. With Trans Tech, I've actually been with Trans Tech since 2017. They opened up a hub in Miami. I had went to go see, and I started being a volunteer. And as time progressed, I was there, and then life happened. I left, and I came back around 2020, 2021. And when I came back, my peers actually asked me to lead the organization. I had kind of called some people to the carpet, like, hey, things ain't going right. Like, there's no reason why we can't do this and can't do that. And my peers were like, yo, why don't you do it? And I was like, wait, what? They're like, you are the longest volunteer that's still here. You're passionate about how our community can get into tech. Like, who's better to do it than you? So I've been doing it for the past 2 years. I just reached my 2-year mark as the executive director of Trans Tech. And it's been super rewarding. Prior to being the executive director of Trans Tech, I was stealth, low disclosure. So I was working with Trans Tech, but it was a very much, if you knew, you knew, but most people didn't. And taking that leap to be visible, I felt like that was the only way I could really tap into my purpose as a human being, because I see liberation for all marginalized communities, but more specifically for Black trans folks through tech.
Now, let's talk about the transition from volunteer to like the executive director. Now, you mentioned that a lot of your peers came to you. They saw something in you. They saw the passion. They saw the purpose. They saw the drive, and they encouraged you to, I guess, step up to the plate and become, this leader. How does something like that feel, knowing that you have people that see things in you that oftentimes we don't see in ourselves? Sometimes we do, but we're afraid to take that step. But the fact that you had these people behind you who believed in what you were doing and they pushed you to be who you are right here today, how does that feel?
It feels great. I mean, who doesn't want to be affirmed by your peers? Who doesn't want that, right? And for me, I still remember the day like it was yesterday, because we had got off a phone call, and it was the community advisory board. At that point, I was a member of the community advisory board, and it was about 5-6 of us on that board. And we had got off that last meeting, and the group chats was going.
Yeah.
Everybody was in the group chats like, so what are we going to do? Like, we really got to figure something out, because at this point, Angelica had been funding the organization herself. And we were like, we don't want her to keep funding the organization because it's just not fair, right? And when she would go film, the organization would kind of slow down. So there needed to be something there to really ground us. And I got a text from one of the guys and was like, hey, if we got you on a contract, because my whole thing was they had been saying like, hey, you could do it. And I was like, yeah, this is a lot of work for a volunteer. Like, y'all want me to do a lot for a volunteer. I'm not doing that as a volunteer. Like, I need to be on staff if this is what I'm doing. And one of the guys, Ronnie Parks, he just texted me. He was like, and it was a screenshot of somebody else's text that said, why don't we just get EC to do it? And he said, he was like, it's not, like your homies on the board that you think this is. This is coming just from somebody random on the board. And I was like, I mean, sure.
So there was there any hesitation, or did you just, first thought was, yes, I'm going to go ahead and do it?
No, there was definitely some hesitation from a standpoint of I had been living my life very stealth, low disclosure. And I knew what taking this position in this organization that has this founder, what that would do for me and the people that care about me. So honestly, like, I had conversations with people that were very close to me. I had even called my family. I called my father, and I was like, hey, like, we need to have a conversation. I'm really weighing this. I'm not asking you how you feel about it. Like, I need you to know that this is something that I'm weighing, but understand that this is an increased visibility on me that y'all aren't actually used to, because I transitioned, went into corporate America, went stealth, kept it moving, right? So it came with some hesitation. The first contract, I was like, let's just get through from now to the summit, and let's see if I do it right, because I didn't know what I was getting into. So I was like, let's see what we do from then. And before we had got to the summit, everybody was sold on like me staying and figuring out what we needed to do for the organization. So it was some hesitation, but not from a standpoint of I don't want to do it. I don't think I'm capable. It was more so I'm about to be very visible. And I have spent 10, 11 years of my life, a part of my life I didn't really share with folks unless it was I was super comfortable with them. So for me, it was more so about that shift of like, oh, now people are going to be asking really personal questions about me. How am I going to navigate that? And I've navigated in the sense of I don't answer the questions that a lot of people ask trans people about like their bodies and surgeries and all of that. Like, I don't understand why we're talking about that. Like, I talk about tech. So
like, you don't need to know that. Like, you're not gonna. That's nothing.
Like, nope. I'm not about to tap into those conversations, because that's not what I'm here for. So, some hesitation, but mainly from a safety standpoint of I live in Florida.
So, oh Lord, we all know about Florida. We're gonna pray for you. But speaking of safety, and the shirt that you have on, Black trans women are scared. Black trans men are scared as well. So, with that being said, when you took the position and you realized that your visibility would, be increased, people would see you, people would know you. Everybody's, that's gonna see you is not gonna, question you in like a hater type mentality. But there are gonna be people that are going through the same thing that you're going through, who are gonna need to hear your story. Need to, feel like they can connect with your journey so that it can get them out of that sad, dark, depressed place and get them to a space of feeling empowered. Like when you realize that like maybe the story that I have is not just for me. The story that I have, this journey that I'm on, is something that I'm going to have to use to share with other people to get them to a better place. When you realized that, like what was going through your head when those type of thoughts were happening?
Yeah. Well, first it says Black trans women are sacred.
Oh Lord, did I?
Oh,
got
a lot of
say
people say scared,
Lord.
and I get it because I'm dyslexic. I'm dyslexic too.
Yes,
So
Black trans women, Black trans men are sacred. But yes,
there are a lot of people in the community that are scared. For me, my story, I realized that my story had power when I presented at the first Trans Tech Summit. I didn't explicitly say I was trans. I just did my presentation, and some people put the pieces of the puzzle together that I was trans. And having the conversation with other Black trans men who are in corporate America, realizing that one, they're not the only one in corporate America. Two, realizing that, oh, there are trans people doing other things besides community work, right? A lot of people only see the visibility of transgender community in community work. And it's like, yes, there are trans people that do community work, but there are also trans people that don't do community work. There are trans people that work in the office. There are trans people that work at McDonald's. There are trans people that work at Google. There's trans people everywhere. So for me, it was to expand that story of representation of like, hey, here's where I came from. I came from, born in New York, raised in Jersey, transitioned and went straight into corporate America.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that I went into corporate America and wasn't working with community. I was working with community and I just wasn't disclosing that I was trans.
Yeah.
So I worked in 2019 on the Trans Visibility March, the inaugural one in Washington, D.C., as the director of social media and marketing there and communications. I have been working behind the scenes with Trans Tech since 2017. I had built websites for community organizations. So there were multiple ways I was tapping in with community without outing myself. And shout out to those people because a lot of them, they knew because they would connect me through like one of my friends. And they're like, we want to work with a Black trans person. And they're like, I know somebody, but like, look, he's not out. He's not visible like that. He's going to be strictly about the business. Y'all do the work, pay the invoice. He's not going to want you to prop him up, tag him, like none of that. So they kept that and I was able to still do the work. So I think sharing that with people, a lot of people are seeing like there's multiple ways to show up for a community that doesn't always have to be in traditional community work.
Absolutely. So the first two, the Black and the trans, as we know, the Black community has not been as accepting of anything less than what they feel is what's the word I'm looking for? Traditional. So when it comes to homosexuality, when it comes to trans, when it comes to things like that, I would say like the older generations who are still around, who are still kind of stuck in their ways, they don't understand a lot of stuff. So the fact that they don't understand, they don't accept a lot of things. So I know for me personally, I've done my part to educate, because that's all it is. Educate people in my family about different things. I've, been open to having conversations, but of course they've had to be open to having these conversations as well. But bridging the gap between what some consider tradition, but between tradition and new reality. How do you feel like you've, done that in your community, or even in your family? Because all it takes is one.
I mean, I did it in my family because I came out at a time where like gay student groups around LGBT folks wasn't a thing in my high school. So I came out to my parents the first time when I was 15. I'm gonna show my age. That was in 2001. So rumors had already been swirling. I had came out to my parents, and once I had came out, I found out I had a bunch of cousins that nobody ever talked about. So it just was like, why y'all ain't never talk about them? And I've been told by the nucleus Black family of like the village of, you got friends of your parents, they're not blood related, but they your auntie and they kids is your cousins. That generation, I feel like they've come to me and said like, they may not be queer, but I gave them permission to explore outside of what the family dynamic expected of. A lot of them are creatives in theater, music, and my family was very like science and technology, engineering, med school, lawyer. Like no, like you need to be in STEM, not STEAM with the arts. No, you need to be in science, technology, engineering, or math. Pick one.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I did it, where I showed me just being myself as a teenager. My peers in my family, or the younger generation beneath me in my family, are very much like, they don't play about that. Like older people in the family may be weird about it, but they don't play about me. Like I don't always get invites places, and it's getting better now, but like that generation is like, nah, he's coming.
Yeah.
Hear him if you want to. There's like very like, let me know who got the issue. But I think representation really matters, and diverse representation at that. And I think just growing up where I grew up, there was a lot of us.
Yeah.
Like there was a lot of us, and it just wasn't the internet. So I think if people realize they interact with folks more often than they don't, that's a lot of my advocacy, that I've interacted with a lot of people that would say, I've never met a trans person before, and they just have no idea. And it's that whole thing of like, you don't know. Like I've had trans people be like, you're not trans. And I'm like, you want to talk to my mom?
And the thing is, like, do you really have to know? Does that have to be one of the determining factors for you to get to know me? The fact that, this is who I am. Like, if you're a cheater, like, that doesn't determine if I want to get to know you or not. If you're a Republican or a Democrat, that doesn't determine me getting to know you. So why is this a thing that also has to matter?
Yeah, I think it's because they feel like knowing if someone is transgender, there's already something that they're unsure about. Of the assumption of what your body looks like, the assumption of how you're intimate with people, the assumption of how you show up in spaces. So I hate when people like lead with that. Like I'm instantly like, don't even worry about it.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter because I'm not interested. Like that's what you're looking with, then I already know where you're going. Like, because if it didn't matter, it wouldn't be a question.
Right.
Truly didn't matter, because that's usually what comes after that. It's like, are you transgender? And it's like, but it doesn't matter. And I'm like, and if it doesn't matter, why are you asking the question? Well, I mean, I just need to know what I'm getting into. You're interested in me.
Exactly.
I don't understand why I got to tell you anything. You came knocking on my door. Like, stay over there.
Right. So growing up, you know, our parents, they instill in us different values and things of that nature. They also instill in us some of the things that they want us to do. You know, like you said, your family was a STEM background type of family, so this is what you need to focus on. But as we get older, we start to discover things in life that are of interest to us that our families, you know, may not understand. But for you, getting into the tech space, becoming the volunteer, becoming the executive director, like that's a leadership role that, you know, is going to create a legacy for you. So when you think of leadership, when you think of where you are now and where you want to be, what are some of the things that like you see yourself accomplishing?
Um, I would say one, the volunteer and philanthropy. I was raised with that. Both
Mm,
my parents are members of Divine Nine organizations. So community service was something that I saw actively as a
mm,
child. Volunteering is something I saw actively. There was an active presence of always giving back. So that has always been a thing for me of like, I need to know how I can help. Where do I see this going? Sky's the limit,
yeah.
honestly. I feel like I'm a businessman. I kind of stumbled on nonprofit, but I want my community to have large philanthropic donors that are
Yeah.
individuals that can donate to the movement. So I'm really invested in entrepreneurship
Mhm.
and being able to have the funds within my business or within my person to fund these different things and resources that our community needs. Because if my businesses are thriving, the money is there. And, you know, working in nonprofit, I see a lot of times that some EDs have to like compromise on things that they're really passionate about in order to
Yeah.
get funded for it. And I would rather the community not compromise
Yeah.
for liberation and be able to be funded the way they see fit. So for me, I tell folks like I really want to be the LeBron James of it for Black trans folks. Of like
Mhm.
maybe there's a school, maybe there's like a center where people can go and learn together and create together and get certifications together and all of those different things. You know, sky's the limit. I really see tech as a gateway to liberation for Black trans folks. And if I can just be a small piece of the puzzle to liberation, like I'm going to make sure that my piece is strong.
Absolutely. Now, aside from some of the things that you've mentioned, are there any like interests or desires that you have that you may not have expressed to people? Like, you know, maybe you want to be a chef, you know, a little home chef on the side. You know, maybe you want to, you know, start a candle business or something like that. Are there any things that like you're passionate about that does not fall under that tech umbrella?
Yeah, so funny things, I do like to cook. I'm pretty good at it. But I don't like being on like the professional line. It's stressful. It made me not want to cook anymore. So I like
Yeah.
cooking with my friends and my loved ones.
Yeah.
I really want to have my own art exhibit. I've been working on a project for a few years called Courage Behind the Keyboard that really dives into the amount of internet harassment that happens and how
Mm,
people have a lot of courage to say things behind a screen, behind the keyboard that they wouldn't necessarily say to somebody's face.
yeah.
So, you know, I tell my friends all the time, like, perfect world, I'll be on a beach in a hammock and I'll be able to paint all day and listen to music. Like
Yes.
I'm an artist and creative at heart. So I like to be barefoot on the beach and
See,
create.
now I'm hearing water. When is your birthday?
Oh, my birthday is August 7th. I'm a Leo. I'm a fire sign.
Oh, okay. Okay. I thought it was like a Pisces or something. I thought you might have been like a water baby.
No, I'm a fire.
Now, when you think of legacy, and people how they may think of you when your person is no longer here, but your presence and your work is. What do you want people to know about you?
I want people to know that I didn't gatekeep resources, that it's never, I think a lot of times in this community work, people will be like, I don't personally like this person, so I'm not going to help this person.
Mm.
I want my legacy to be that regardless, I helped.
Yeah.
Regardless of the circumstance, I helped. Um, and I kind of pride myself on that. Like, I just want to help. I'm not here for the extra, for the, it's not that I don't care, but it's like, is that a piece of the puzzle of liberation? Because I feel like, not I feel like, but I know my community is dying. My community is actively getting killed. Black trans women are getting murdered at astonishing rates. Black trans men are dying by their own hand from loneliness and suicide and all of those different things. So, and it's being misreported when they are being murdered. So all of those different things is like, it's there's something urgent on the horizon. Like,
Yeah.
is it, I'm really trying to save lives. Like, and it sounds, some people say it sounds crazy, but it's, I want people to say that I helped. I want people to say that I helped regardless, that if I had a resource and I had a way and it was available, that I was able to connect the dots.
And speaking of making resources available and connecting the dots, you mentioned a big launch that's happening for you in 2024. Tell us about that and why that's so important and why we should be waiting on it and expecting it.
Yeah, so Marsha's Web is important because, one, Mother Marsha is the mother of all things to me when it comes to our movement, especially as Black queer folks. So honestly, that, and then the reality is that larger LGBT orgs are usually ran by cis folks, by white folks. They've been known to have racism in their organizations, as well as transphobia. And yes, a lot of those organizations are working to rectify those situations, but there are a lot of Black-led organizations that are underfunded, that have resources to share, and they don't know where to find them. So what a better place than one central place where those resources are. I've been building it for a few years, and it's taken some time because you need a username and password to log in, because this is a great tool for community, but also can be used as a weapon for the opposition. So having the security there and having it behind the username and password so people can really interact and see those different resources, and also for those resources for them to be able to connect. Queer people move a lot. They change cities, like, oh, I'm going to go to New York. I'm going to go to Atlanta. I'm going to move to North Carolina. And a lot of times, especially trans folks and non-binary folks, when they change cities, they have to find a new doctor for their hormone replacement therapy. They have to find a new endocrinologist. They have to find a new PCP, all of these different things. And they don't even know where to start, because they're like, I got to see if, is this doctor even going to take me because I'm trans? And those are the things that trans people worry about. So having Marsha's Web, a resource directory that has all of that in one place, it makes it easier for trans people to not only find the resources they need to thrive, but also find community in those cities that they are in.
Ah, that is beautiful. I love it. Like, so when it comes to that, are you like having like a big launch party? Are you doing a social media push? Do I need to book a ticket and come to, like, let me know so I can be prepared?
So there will be a huge social media push. I'll get your info so you can be a part of that, because Marsha's Web did get funded by Transgender Justice Funding Project. And with that funding, I've been able to keep the hosting and things going for right now while we build on the back end. But also there's merch. So there's Marsha's Web boxes with t-shirts, bags, hand sanitizers, some masks that'll be going out. So there will be a large social push. I'm working on, if we do like a launch party, if so, it would likely be in New York City, just because that's where I was born and raised in New Jersey across the bridge. So I'm not sure about the launch party yet, but definitely a social media push with all of the swag that we got going on. And yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's been a long time coming.
So look, let me just say that I absolutely appreciate this conversation. It's given me insight into a lot of things, and I love to hear people's passion, especially when that passion benefits other people, when that passion saves other people, when that passion is here for other people. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for that. So if you could let the people know how they can stay in contact with you.
Sure. On social platforms, it's EC the third with periods in between. So EC period the period third. On TikTok and Instagram, ecpizarro.com is my website. You can see all of the things, this interview and some other interviews that I've done. And for organizations, transtechsocial.org, marshallsweb.com, Transtech Social on all social media platforms. If you're a member of Transtech, you have direct access to me. So if you want to just pick my brain and chat it up, members of Transtech have direct access to me through our Discord, and they're able to ask questions and things like that. So that's the way to reach me. I'm pretty accessible. I try to be, as my schedule allows, as Q can let you know. It gets a little hectic sometimes, especially around like Trans Awareness Week, Trans Day of Remembrance, Trans Day of Visibility. But I try to be available and accessible to folks, especially if they're looking to get into tech, and what steps to take to get into tech, because there's a lot of transferable life skills that are there, and it's not always about getting the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And they gotta tell people that all the time, because I'm a contractor, and that's where I found my most freedom and love for my work is through contracting.
Wow. See, you that right there, you don't realize that, but that was just a word that I needed. So yeah, thank you for that. And thank you guys, everybody, for tuning in to another episode of BLK Talk. Make sure you guys follow, and support E.C Pizarro and everything that he has going on. And we'll be back